Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Jason Weiss, and you are here with me on the Ask Jason Weiss show. Although I am an attorney, nothing herein is legal advice. Nothing should be treated that way. You have not hired an attorney by watching this. I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm not telling you what to do. We're just here talking legal. The timing for today is the stars aligned. Literally 5 minutes ago, the Parkland trial of Nicholas Cruz, they just came back and with the jury findings. And I happen to have the guest scheduled with me, Ira Weintraub. And Ira and I graduated from Douglas together. I'm not going to talk about the year, but it was a long time ago. But we talked about we graduated Douglas together. He graduated one spot ahead of me because he's WEIN and I'm WEIS. So he walked across the stage right before I did. And up until recently, we were both Parkland residents. I've moved out of Parkland, but Ira is still there. And we are just dealing with the Parkland, what just happened. So I'm going to introduce Ira, and then we're going to jump right into it and see. So, like I said, I've known Ira 20 plus years. We sat together in high school. We were friends in college. We went to different law schools, but we hung out, that, and, we recircled back in Parkland, and we speak a handful of times a week. Ira is a practicing attorney, does real estate closings, and all of that kind of good stuff that I don't touch. And at the same time, he is now doing some funding with a group. So I'm going to let Ira talk a little bit about what he's doing, and then we're going to go ahead and jump right in. And Ira, take it away.
Well, thank you for the intro, Jay. Glad to be here. This is I'd like to say my first podcast, especially as a guest. So I'm really not quite sure, what to say. I do agree. It's a very interesting day considering both you and we are Douglas graduates. I will follow your lead and not give the year that we graduated. I still like to think you and I are still nice young guys, but the hair might just looks a little bit different from back then. We go back a very, very long way, and even our parents are still friends to this day. You forgot to mention. It is very interesting, from the real estate market, the way that you and I have collectively, each of us in our respective legal careers, how I mainly really only handle transactional work, and you're on different side. So as far as, some of the things that I'm doing now, kind of like branching out a little bit, I have started my own small business funding company. What we operate out of in Palm Beach County, but we also operate out of New York as well. Basically, one of the issues that seems to always be coming across is how can businesses, whether small, medium, even well-established businesses over the, say, 15, 20, 30 years, how can they expand? How can they continue to grow as the markets change, as the economy continues to change, and technology changes? And a lot of times people can't typically always go to a bank for a loan. Sometimes it just takes too long. It could take 2 months, 3 months, and they still end up getting denied. So this is where we come in, where a lot of times businesses are waiting for accounts receivable to be paid. Sometimes it could be a net 30 days, 45, even 60 days. And while they're waiting for those funds to come in, they're still waiting for cash to pay their employees, to possibly expand, to hire more employees, to buy more equipment, even expand into more offices or different trucking routes for that matter. So we come in and we buy their accounts receivable from them at a discount. And after doing the due diligence and underwriting, we can actually have them funded literally either that same day or within 24 business hours. And this way, businesses can continue moving on. I guess the typical example that I like to give would be a t-shirt company. And this kind of goes into play when it just so happens when the MSD Strong shirts, remember when those came out? So unfortunately, from that day, it was just awful, gut wrenching. And I remember when those shirts came out, I was like, we're getting them for the whole family. We are Parkland residents. We are Parkland strong. I am a Douglas grad, a proud Douglas grad. I pass by the school at least 3-4 times a day. And so when you have an order like that or something like that, you're going to have to hire more employees. You're going to need more raw materials to do that. And you may not have available cash. Call somebody like me, and I'm happy to help. And therefore, the business can, fulfill a big order like that. And that's where we come from. We really genuinely like to help businesses grow, expand, hire more employees because it's better for everybody.
So you're a non-traditional, not you need to check every box type lender. You're going to look at every single type of deal, and you're going to go ahead and look at it. So I mean, I got to bring this up. I mean, you talked about Douglas and the t-shirts, and there was 3 heartstrings that they made the bracelets and the shirts and all of that, and all of the things that were going on. So for those of you that weren't watching the news like we were, they just came down and they sentenced the jury found that Nicholas Cruz should not, and I say this again, should not be sentenced to death. I know that is not the outcome that the family wanted. I'm going to speak for people I've spoken to in Parkland. I know that's not the verdict that they were hopeful for. And what this is going to do is it's not finished. It's not complete. It's not, that, but the jury has now recommended that he not receive the death penalty. The next phase is now the judge can go ahead and she's going to allow statements, and the judge is going to be allowed to say, I agree with the jury, or I'm overruling it.
Exactly.
I know, Ira, that, because this is something that was close to us as being attorneys in Parkland, Florida. I don't want you to get into politics and your personal beliefs, but, just a big picture. What do you think?
I see there's different philosophies on what people were hoping for. Some people were hoping that, a recommended sentence for death would kind of put some finality and some closure behind, and some the other people on the other side of the spectrum were looking at from the standpoint of, okay, if it is life imprisonment, then we'll never have to worry about this ever again. The building can be broken down, and that's going to be the end of it. And some people would rather him see the four walls of a jail for the next 50, 60 years. Some people might feel that's worse.
And to echo on that, you can tear down the school. There is a school shortage in Broward County, and Parkland is going through rezoning and redistricting and new boundaries. So that would allow that building that nobody ever wants to set foot in again. And I get that, and I respect that, and I agree with that. That allows that building to be taken down.
I agree. Correct.
On the flip side, the building being taken down, and, the difference is, you are not penalizing or punishing Cruz with the sentence of death.
Correct. I agree there.
He was found guilty of murdering, I think, 17 people, and he is now going to spend the rest of his life in prison on the taxpayer's dime. That's the flip side.
That is correct. That is the flip side there. And and you probably know, when I was at Douglas, I ran cross country and track. I'm still friends with some of my cross country runners. We were texting each other this morning about it. So whenever the Scott Beagle Memorial Run comes to Parkland, I make sure to run it. even if I'm not in the best shape at that time, I do what I can. As you know,
that's one of the funniest things, because I can always tell when you're training for a marathon. When this guy's training for running, and you could see him all through Parkland, he's running with his, his crazy sneakers and his headphones and his backpacks. I mean, this guy, he slims down. He is just like fit. And then you could tell, not saying he's fat, but you can tell when he's not training, he is not as slim and fit.
I'm not as disciplined when I'm not training for a marathon,
and that's okay. And that's what this is all about. I mean, there are so many topics that we could talk about with, discipline and funding and being an attorney and Parkland. I mean, it's just, I look, and you and I were texting during the verdict, and we look at the families' faces, and we're both parents. Correct. I'm never, ever, ever going to wish upon any parent that they have to bury their own child. It is probably the number one most stressful thing on the planet, with, I think, death of a spouse, death of a child, law school, med school, and death of a parent, and moving, I think, are the top 6. I think getting fired is in the top 10 as well. So I'm not taking away. This is just a tragedy.
I'm just worried, this afternoon, driving back to Parkland, what the mood is going to be around, especially with a lot of.
It's going to be somber, and I don't know. And I don't know if him being sentenced to death would make it less somber. I didn't follow it close enough where I can say the jury absolutely got it right or the jury absolutely got it wrong. Mm-hmm. From an emotional standpoint, I'm going to keep my opinion to myself, because I'm very heartbroken about the whole situation. I mean, I
agree.
This is
4
years now.
Yeah.
It sucks, no matter how you slice it and dice it.
Actually, it's more than 4 years. 4.5 years. We're coming up. Yeah. We're coming up on 5 years.
Yeah.
In February.
Yeah. And going past that school and seeing that school and proud alma mater of that school. I mean, this was just heartbreaking.
Yeah. You like to say time heals, but you know what? It's, as a parent, as an alumni, as a parent of young kids, it doesn't get easier. I worry about this, every day when, I kiss my kids goodbye when they go off to school. And I shouldn't have, and as a parent, I shouldn't have to think about that. Do you really think when we were kids, we thought something like this could happen? No, of course not.
No, we didn't think that at all. I mean, I'm sure our parents, I both know our overprotective Jewish mothers, once we didn't really have cell phones, so we weren't texting, but our parents knew that the most dangerous part of our day was probably the drive to and from school, either on a bus, with a friend, driving ourselves. Once we were at school, that was supposed to be like a safe learning environment where that, we could get in and we could learn. And we were at Douglas and safe school, top schools. I mean, heck, we all moved home back to Parkland for that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, listen, sometimes when we were seniors, I used to run to school in the morning. Sometimes my parents would drop my bag off and I'd shower at school, go to class, and then I'd get a ride home.
Yeah. I went in with one of my friends. I played baseball, football. I did other activities there. I mean, it was just a place. And, neither of my children will be going to that school. I don't live in that district anymore, so they won't be going to that school. But I mean, I don't know. It's no matter how you look at it, it's just very hard.
It's hard to fathom what happened. It's hard to make sense of it because I 4.5 years later, I still can't make sense of what happened. Yeah. I just can't.
Yeah. And this is going to be debated and talked about on, Fox and CNN and all these other channels. And you're going to have talking heads. That's what we call the lawyers that are commenting all the time on this. And you're going to see it. And, you're going to see various different ends of the spectrum, where each person lies. And again, I'm not commenting because I haven't digested this yet.
I agree with you on that.
I know emotionally how I feel.
Exactly. Also, and even when it first happened, I mean, I remember I remember exactly what I was doing the day that it happened, where I was at certain times of the day and then all of a sudden I see all these helicopters and like, what is going on? And everyone's like, it was hard to fathom. And it's like, you hold your kids a little bit tighter that day, and and you worry about all the families, all your friends, and you're just like, if it can happen here, it can happen at other schools,
and sadly, it has happened at other schools, and it's happened at other things. And I mean, this is just continuing to go. I mean, I remember exactly where I was. I was in my office in the Parkland area, watching it on the news in the conference room and texting a whole bunch of fellow parents that I knew that had kids there. I was texting my son's lacrosse coach because he was the coach over at Douglas, texting him, "Are you okay? What's going on?" It was just, and we band together as a community. That's one thing that we did. And now, the community is going to need to heal together.
Well, imagine like going to the park, tonight, for kids that have flag football or that have lacrosse practice or baseball or anything over at whether it be Terramar Park or Park Trails. I mean, imagine the mood and parents watching, wanting and trying to cheer their kids on, but in the back of their minds,
it's not this, yeah, and it's not over. That's all I'm gonna say. There's what happens to him in prison. What happens? Maybe the judge overrules. Maybe some of these victim impact statements. There's just a lot going on, and with the whole world, with everything going on. What we're going to do, we're going to break for a minute, but then we're going to go back into like some of the market trending and some of the hot topics, and
definitely,
are people going to be as happy and as eager to move to Parkland? I don't know. I think so. It's still a phenomenal place to be.
I agree. That's why I'm still here. That's why I'm still
exactly. What's the market looking like? What's trending? Where can people get money and loans? I mean, because our world right now is interesting, as my mother would say. Interesting. Like there's no rhyme or reason for a lot of things, and with that involved, we're gonna get some rhymes and we're gonna get some reasons from our great sponsors of the show and commercials, and we're gonna watch that, and we will be back. I'll be back with Ira Weintraub of Onyx Funding LLC, who's also a transactional attorney here. You can find him on Onyx, ONNX funding.com. You can also find him on the Florida Bar website as Ira Weintraub, WEINTRAUB, for those of you that are only listening. So if you're only listening, tune in, watch us live. And if you're watching us live, hang tight. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Sounds good.
Hey, we are back. I am Jason Weiss. I have my longtime friend, colleague, office mate for a while.
It's there's a lot of
Buddy,
things we can call ourselves.
buddy from college, buddy from Douglas High School. We are here on the Ask Jason Weiss show. Again, although Ira and I are both practicing attorneys, nothing on this show is legal advice. You haven't hired us. You haven't retained us. Nothing you say or do should be relied upon by this. This is purely just talking, generics, and all of that. We were just talking about the Nicholas Cruz verdict that came down a little while ago, and expressing just our thoughts on this and our repeated condolences for the family and the Parkland community as a whole. And, you know, Ira and I, we both went to high school here. We both moved back here. Parkland and Coral Springs are the type of areas that once you leave, you come back. And that's what we did. Ira and I both left. We went to the University of Florida, go Gators, get our undergraduate degree. I stuck around and went south to Miami for law school. Ira went up north to that state that we're not going to talk about because they have a crappy baseball team.
We do have 7 Super Bowl rings. To go with it, though.
Yeah. But hey, what is the one thing that stopped the Patriots every single time? The Giants. But anyway,
we're not gonna talk about that.
No. Surprising at 4-1. That's all I'm gonna say. I think we're all shocked that they're 4-1, but good for them. Good for Daboll. I think he's doing phenomenal.
I hate to say, it troubles me to say it, but I'm actually happy for them.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, Ira, that you know, this is not scripted, so you're gonna kick me for asking this question because it's not a softball.
Great.
You know, when did you decide to go to law school and to be a lawyer? When did you make that decision?
I'll never. Actually, it's not even a hardball question because I actually remember exactly when it happened. It happened when we were both seniors at University of Florida. I was actually a speech pathology and audiology major at UF, and I was volunteering over at Shands Hospital. And I saw, as a speech pathology major, you are interacting with children and even adults that have both hearing and speech disorders, problems that can literally last an entire lifetime. Sometimes they're born with them, and it was very gut-wrenching all the time for me. And so when I would see, parents and how they're, with their stresses, I found myself wondering, how would I be able to do this my entire life and not be able to, quote unquote, bring my work home with me on a day-to-day basis. So at the time, I was still living in my fraternity house. And I remember calling up my father, who neither one of my parents are attorneys. I called my father and I said, "Hey, Dad, what makes a good lawyer?" I can just visualize my dad on the other end, like, "Who's this calling me?" So we ended up talking about it a little bit, and my father reiterated a story how he always knew I was going to be a lawyer from when I was 5 years old, and here I am, 21 years old. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, there was a time when we were living just outside of Washington, D.C. in Virginia, and I had gotten grounded from riding my big wheels, if you remember those."
Oh, yeah.
And the next day, my father comes home from work, and we lived on like the bottom of a hill, and he sees me screaming down the hill on the big wheels. I'll never forget. My dad gets on the driveway. He's like, "Hey, I." Whenever I got called I or Ike, I knew I was probably going to be in trouble. And so my dad like waves his finger like, "Hey, come here." And I'm like, "Hey, Dad, what's up? What are you doing?" "Nothing, just playing." "Didn't your mother and I have a conversation about riding the big wheels?" "Uh-huh." "Was anything kind of that wasn't clear?" "No, you were clear." "So what are you doing?" "Well, you said I couldn't ride my big wheels. These are Jerry's big wheels from next door." My father rolled his eyes, rolled his head, and walked back into the house. And I can hear him say, Hey, Karen, our son's going to be a lawyer." My mom's like, "What?" And told the whole story. long story short, I got sat down that night at dinner, and it was made abundantly clear that I couldn't ride any kind of big wheels, a bike, whether they were mine, next doors, or anything under the sun. I wanted to walk anywhere. I had to use my own 2 feet. And so my dad reminded me of that story, and he's like, "That's when I knew you were probably going to end up as a lawyer, and you should be a lawyer." And so that's we started looking at different schools, and that's how I knew that I really not only was probably going to be a lawyer, but that I wanted to be a lawyer. And I got into it because I genuinely love helping people.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because you've navigated around. I know, you were at a PI firm for a little while, personal injury, and then you were doing some more transactional stuff. You've been in-house. You're kind of like me. You've moved around, and you
Right.
do your own thing. You find your own thing. And what you've done with Onyx Funding is, you've gone ahead and you've come up with a great concept. I think you have some, people behind you or with you and working together, and you got a nice crew there. And you're using your law degree, but in a non-traditional law fashion. And I think somewhere around that 7 to 15 year mark, I think every attorney kind of questions. And I think actually attorneys are starting to question it earlier and earlier in their careers. Like, hey, I wasn't, this isn't what I signed up for. Or this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to work, well, I can get into that whole thing because now you have, if you're not emailing them or asking them between 8 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock at night, you're waiting until the next day. And God forbid you send an email at 5:15 on a Friday, you're not here until Monday. So that's different. And that's where us old school dinosaur guys, a client emails me on a weekend, I'm emailing back.
So am I.
Even if it's got it, I'll handle this Monday. And that's what seems to be lost on. And I'll admit, it's lost on me. I got an email from somebody on Monday or Tuesday, and I didn't respond. And she followed up with me this morning. Hey, just seeing. And I was angry. I'm like, you know what? I'm working. No, you know what? I didn't respond to you. Sorry, I didn't respond to you earlier. I am working on it. We'll have final product to you by Monday. That's all people want. People want to be in the know. And that's good. So I guess one of the things that you're doing with Onyx Funding, I'm going to guess, because I haven't had the need at this point in time yet, even though I've got projects coming. But I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to allow people that don't fit into a traditional box to know that, hey, there's someone else out here. Now, it may not be as economical as going to a bank, or it may not be the same terms, or you may need more security, or you may only show a little bit less. Like, I'm sure there are certain things that they have to follow, and you have a checklist, but you're an offer of a non-traditional service. Hey,
exactly.
You didn't get qualified by bank A. Let us take a look at it. Let us see.
Exactly. Yeah, for me, starting out, in law school, it was about, I wanted to be able to use my creativity. And, that's, they told me in orientation, if you're creative,
go somewhere else.
Go somewhere else. And I'll never forget calling my parents up, and I'm like, I think I might have made a mistake. And they're like, you're there. And they hung up. And
same thing with me.
But in my second year, I was required to take a federal income tax course. And that's where you're allowed, even encouraged, to be creative in certain ways. And so I kind of followed that and tailored the rest of my curriculum towards that, and even got my graduate law degree in tax. And it allowed me to be creative. And, to this day, doing transactional, I have to be continuously creative, which is what I thrive in doing. I love doing that. And it's like, because every situation, every client has different needs or wants, whether it's in a real estate transaction, a corporate transaction, anything of that nature. So for here, banks have their parameters. But, for me, I'm able to utilize, like 20 years of legal experience towards being creative in a business with a business mindset to help create, something that people need. But everybody's different. Every business, every company is different, for that matter.
And not everybody fits in that. I've always been the round peg in the square hole my entire life. And I have heard numerous times that, I'm too creative to be an attorney. And I like that creativity. I mean, you and I have sat around and dry erase board, numerous scenarios. It's like, all right, we know we can get here, and it's legal to do it. But, we've got this speed bump, or we've got this pitfall, or we've got something. And we just sit there and we whiteboarded it out. And,
exactly.
You've got to get creative. And I told this to, I don't remember who it was for. Oh, someone that was new that joined the team for one of the companies that I'm doing work with. And they said, what's your read? And I'm like, look, when the owner of the company, who is a very high-ranking and demanding individual, when he says, I want this, you can't say no. But
you have to find a way to get there.
If you do your due diligence and you do your research, you might be able to say, dang it, I don't know if I can get it done this way. So and I think that's where a lot of people stop. It's no, dear sir or ma'am, I'm sorry, we can't do it, period. Okay. So that's not acceptable. Dear sir or ma'am, we can't do exactly what you want. However, I understand your end goal to be cross the finish line. I would like to make a suggestion of, instead of going from point A to point B to point C, that we figure out a way to go from point A to point C, which will get us to the finish line.
Right.
And just telling someone no is not an acceptable answer. So the perfect example is, we work with a lot of people, and you've worked with some of the people, and I've worked with some of the people. And when some of the people that I work with, when they make a mistake and they're just like, hey, I made a mistake, I screwed up, I filed it in the wrong case, right? Okay, no big deal in the scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
But just, hey, I made a mistake, I filed it in the wrong case. Great. I like when I hear, hey, I made a mistake, I filed it in the wrong case. So what I did is I called the JA, and with the judicial assistant. I was able to have it rejected from that case, and I was able to upload it into the case. So if you get an email that says that, don't worry about it. That's
right.
Awesome. We all make mistakes. Crap happens. Okay. But when you own up to it and you don't try to hide from it, that's awesome. Like, I had a client call me the other day. He's like, what's going on with my case? And I'm like, to be honest with you, I've got 30 days to figure it out. I still got another week. But I know you want this done sooner. You got to give me the weekend to get it done. No problem.
Right.
I'm good with that. So I think communication is key. And we're a society right now that everything with our phones and with everything, we are a right now. So if I get a text right now, they expect to hear back now.
Immediately.
And one of the mistakes I made when I first started practicing is I didn't manage those expectations. So I have clients that have my personal cell phone number, and they'll call me and they'll text me and they'll do all this. Well, I found a way around it. Now I have a secondary cell phone that I keep with me during working business hours. And you get me. And if I'm not available, I text you the next day. Hey, sorry, it's Saturday. I'll call you on Monday. And that's all people want. Radio silence and lack of knowing.
It drives people crazy. I mean, because they think something bad's happening.
I'd rather know, hey, your job application, you didn't get the job. You're trying to get promoted within the company, you didn't get promoted. I'd rather hear that than radio silence.
Right.
And that's one of the things that, I think that you are doing with your company and your law practice. I know we've worked on many transactions together. We've done many things together. And I know that one of the things we pride ourselves on is over communicating with each other and with the client. We tell the clients, hey, this is what to expect. This is what it is. And I always undersell and try to always deliver. Hey, look, you want to close on Halloween? I think we can get it done. No problem. And then when you got the closing package ready to go, and hey, look, we can close on the 27th. Most people are like, oh my God, that's awesome. I want to do it. Let's do it.
That's right.
That's it. So I go to a bank, I try to get a loan, they deny me. What is the next step in either getting through to you or what is your more ideal client? So the people that are listening, if they're like, oh, I need a loan, I need money, and bank A and bank B denied me. I don't know where else to turn other than a hard money lender who's going to charge me exorbitant fees. what's next?
Yeah, we're not in a traditional sense like that at all. Because we are really looking at your accounts receivable, we're looking at your bank statements, and we are, basically we need to see, a simple application. And then from there, it's a matter of doing the due diligence and underwriting. And if we see, based on our parameters and our algorithms, whether or not it would be a good fit. And based on that, if the parameters look good, we present an offer. And then it's up to that particular company to decide, okay, let's do it. And then literally within like 24 hours, we can have them funded with their money in their account, just like that.
So if somebody wanted to contact you, of course, they can go to the website, which is Onyx, ONNX, funding, funding.com, and they can get through and they can do that. But what should they have prepared? Like 3 months worth of bank statements?
Correct. Exactly.
That it?
3 months, great.
Bank statements and social security numbers and
if they're EIN, if they're an entity, an EIN number, and then they can literally fill out the form online, and then we reach out to them immediately.
Now, are you only lending in New York and Florida, or can you?
No. Because remember, we're not in a sense a lender, because we're actually taking back the accounts receivable. So we we can operate in all 50 states in that regard. Right now, the company is doing like we funded deals in approximately 7 states right now. And that's just in a short time. But we are very careful in doing our due diligence, and we take it one step at a time.
So magic 8 ball, right? Or crystal ball. You're in the real estate industry. You've been in it 20 plus years.
Right.
Where do you see the market going on residential?
Unfortunately, I am ever an optimist, but I think there's going to be a very a significant correction, at least over the next year, 2 years at least.
And what do you think that means? Because I've heard a lot of different people say a correction, and I agree with you, a correction. But some people think a correction is this, where it's just going to even, and some people think it's going to plummet. And most people that I trust and think we're going to see a slight decrease and then a stabilization. What do you think?
I think you're going to be seeing a correction up to 15, even 18%.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I think as interest rates have continued to risen, it's going to start becoming more of a buyer's market, where buyers are going to be able to really start dictating terms. They are going to request that sellers pay for certain things that they traditionally aren't required to, especially in Florida, whether it be the dock stamps, closing costs. Broward County, it's the buyer that traditionally picks the title agent and pays for the title insurance. I think buyers are going to be in a position where they say, hey, I don't need to buy your house. You probably need to sell your house because the prices are coming down. And they're going to say, you want me to buy your house? I want you to pay the title insurance. I want you to pay the closing costs. And at some point, it may it's starting to, I can see the shift starting that way right now.
Yeah, I see it with some of the real estate fees also, not for the attorneys, not for the closing, but for the realtors. They were taking 6%. They were offering 4% to the other person so that your house would be top on the list and all of this. So they're still going to take that 6%, but they're playing around with it, or they might say, only 5%. Like, you see creative ways, and that's it.
Exactly.
I think the realtors and the attorneys and the buyers and the sellers that can get creative and can see the forest through the trees, I think that's the correct saying.
Right.
They'll find ways. You might not want to buy that property for $2 million anymore because you might only think it's worth 1.8, but maybe you fast track it, maybe you lease it for a little while. The people that get creative, that aren't stuck in a box, are going to do very well.
Well, and I think that's a good thing about being creative. You can't just be, hard and fast and set in your ways. You have to be able to adapt as the market conditions change. You have to be able to adapt, in all the time. You really do. And I think, it'll be a testament as if being creative and adapting, I think it's a testament to your abilities, and as being a deal maker, or as being very creative for your client, because I believe every problem or every issue has a solution. It's just a matter of thinking sometimes outside the box to get there. And that's what you and I, used to work on, like you were saying about the dry erase boards. I mean, I remember doing that in the conference room with you.
Yep. And in my office, I had a big dry erase board, and we would sit there and we would map it out and come up with a solution. So I think those of us that are creative and are diligent and are trying, I think we'll all be fine. And those of you that need a little bit of help and, you can't get a loan, go to this guy. You're looking to buy a piece of property where he's licensed, go to him. These are the things. The resources are out there. I mean, look, we both had practices that yours was very involved in transactions and real estate. Mine was involved in litigation and entertainment and culinary. And, COVID basically put everything on stop. I can honestly say I am busier today than I've ever been in my entire career, which is great. I don't sleep, but it's great. And I love it. So we're about at the end here, and I usually try to throw a softball or an interesting question out there. I've done, what's the most realistic, movie? What's your favorite law movie? So if you had, a couple of extra dollars sitting in your pocket, and you had an opportunity to buy a piece of land, where would you buy it? What would you do with it, and why?
I don't want to say that's a softball. It's kind of a loaded question. I have my own personal feelings. Eventually, I would like to have a place in Napa Valley. I love my family and we love going to Colorado. But then again, my family's also here in Florida. So if I had any,
let's go bang for the buck. You're on a budget, and you can't spend more than what you want.
Then, in all honesty, I'd probably end up in Colorado somewhere, or maybe Park City, just because from my family standpoint,
a snowboarder.
I'm a snowboarder, but the summers out there, it's great there's so many more activities besides, just going in the wintertime, so many different activities, from hiking, rafting, cycling, even zip lining out there. And it's also great to do elevation training for marathons out there.
And I'm going to follow my kids wherever they go to college, wherever my son and my daughter go to college. I want to buy something right there so I can come visit as much as I want. My son hopefully will be playing Division I lacrosse, so I'll be following him and watching. My daughter will be dancing, and she wants to be a brain surgeon, so I'll watch her doing stuff. So that's what I want. I want to follow my kids.
Well, it's kind of interesting because that's where my older son wants to end up. I told you, out in Palo Alto. Yeah. So Napa Valley's not that far away. Maybe
there you go.
An hour and a half drive, 2-hour drive.
So I was fortunate today to have Ira with me, who, like me, is a Douglas graduate, and our hearts and love goes out to the Parkland community with everything that was just today was a big day for the community. And we send our love and our well wishes for everybody in the community and all the families that have had just loss. And we wish nothing but the best, and we send our deepest love, compassion, and feelings across the board. Ira is involved in, again, you want closings, you want some sort of real estate transaction done. I've used him numerous times. He's the guy. My parents are hopefully going to be moving. Well, I'm going to use him, so that shows. And if you've been turned down by a traditional lender, or you don't think you qualify for a traditional lender, or you just want to see what you qualify for, reach out to Ira. onyxfunding.com, onnxfunding.com. Say Jason and Ira referred me. Ira will know. You can always reach out to me, Jason at jswlawyer.com. I'm not offering my coffee right now for the people that were letting me know. I'm out, and I'm now in a new location. So I'm growing beans, and I'm grinding, and I'm ordering, and I'm doing. So another show or two down the line, I'll start offering coffee again.
Ira, I hope so.
Thank you so much for everything, for being my friend and confidant for 20 plus years.
Thank you, Jason.
Probably longer. Much love, much appreciation, and thank you, Ira, for being here today.
Thank you, Jason. My best to the family.
Same to yours.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for being the behind the scenes master like you are, and can't wait to catch up with you again soon.
Take care.